Okay, here we go. Welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC Fight Night. Ben Smooth Henderson versus Khabilov. I believe I said that right. Yeah, those Russian names are hard to pronounce sometimes. Yeah, anyways, so this is a post-fight show for the main card, and yeah, this card wasn't, the worst card. It wasn't the best card. It had its ups and downs. So let's get started with the main event: Ben Smooth Henderson versus Khabilov. Yeah. Oh man, I picked Husam to win this fight because of his wrestling, and I felt like he did kind of out-wrestle Ben in the first 3 rounds. He was landing some good takedowns and just really dominating in the grappling. But Ben was able to, to some extent, stay at bay and land some good punches. And he did the best he could in those first 3 rounds, but I think Husam gassed out in the 4th round. And when he got caught and rocked by Ben with the punches, Ben was able to capitalize and sink in that submission, rear naked choke in the 4th round, and then that was all she said in the main event. Good job, Ben Henderson. Yeah, then in the co-main event we had my good buddy. Oh no, that wasn't the co-main event. My bad. Okay, co-main event was Diego Sanchez versus Ross Pearson. This fight was a stinker. Dana White is just upset with it, and so is like 99% of the whole world that saw the fight. Ross Pearson was robbed in the decision at gunpoint, like Michael Bisping said. And Diego Sanchez, I researched this on Fight Metric, and it shows that Ross Pearson landed more on pretty much all 3 rounds, and there was really no grappling in this fight, and it was pretty much a stand-up war, and there wasn't really much for takedowns either, so you got to really go off the strikes landed per round, because this turned into a points match after it went to the judges' hands. And if the judges really did their job right, they would have given it at least 29-28 or 30-27 to Ross Pearson easily. Unanimous decision. With all 3 judges. Yeah, it's, man, Ross Pearson, I'm glad he got his win bonus still, and he seems like a cool guy, so yeah, I felt bad for him. And I wouldn't mind Diego Sanchez. Yeah, he just got outstruck, and he got dropped in that 2nd round with punches landed on him. Yeah, and Diego Sanchez wants to fight Nate Diaz now. I think that's a good matchup. I say, why not have Nate Diaz tee off on Diego Sanchez and show him what's up, and hopefully Nate Diaz can finish him to get a good clean win. I like Nate Diaz, and Nick Diaz. Yeah, so yeah, I don't necessarily have anything against Diego as a person. Just, man, it's just to say you won that fight. Come on. Okay, then also, so yeah, Diego Sanchez, he won by a decision split, and yeah, there was so many outlets that were like, this is bogus, but hey, what can you do? Who knows what the judges were thinking that night. So that sums up that fight. Then also on the main card, now we had my buddy John Dodson. Did a great job. I hope he gets a rematch with Demetrius Johnson or a shot against Ali, whoever wins the UFC flyweight title, coming up on Saturday. And yeah, John Dodson looked great. He dominated John Moraga. John Moraga maybe landed a couple good shots here and there. And John Moraga, he fought for the belt for a reason against Johnson, but Johnson was able to just total dominate him, and I think John Dodson bring his A game against Demetrius Johnson or Ali. That could be a fireworks type fight. Yeah, so you got John Dodson wins by TKO, doctor stoppage, after the second round due to the cuts on the face of John Moraga. I believe it was the nose. And John Dodson, he was ranked number 1, I believe, in the flyweight rankings. And here he beat another top 10 flyweight. So, yeah, good job, John Dodson. Yeah, keep up the good work. I like how you're finishing fights, too. Of course, like he said in the post-fight press conference, he wishes it was him that stopped the fight and not the doctors. But it's almost the same thing, because why would the doctors go in there if, someone didn't do something, which in this case was you, and so you kind of technically finished the fight. And that's why it's declared TKO, doctor stoppage, in your favor for the victory. Good job. I say he put on one of the best performances against Demetrius, gave him a run for his money to an extent, so wouldn't mind seeing a rematch or him fight Ali for the belt. Yeah, now also on the main card we had Rafael dos Anjos versus Jason High. Yeah, this was TKO punches round 2, and yeah, it was just Rafael dos Anjos. He was looking good in that first round. The second round, he was able to finish him, and yeah, it was TKO punches, and Jason High was just kind of laying on the ground, and Rafael was really able to just kind of ground and pound, get on top of him a bit. And the referee pulls him off, and Jason High pushes the referee, and there's a lot of controversy there. Jason High, he apologized, and he knew what he did was wrong. I kind of feel like, have him apologize publicly and maybe give him another shot in the UFC, but I guess the UFC cut him for now. We'll see years down the line, who knows, but I could see either way. It was definitely uncalled for. Don't blame the UFC for the decision they made. Yeah, but Rafael dos Anjos, he's definitely smack dab in the middle of that top 10 lightweight rankings. He's been in the UFC for a long time, and he's been on a tear. He's been looking good. So I say throw him in a #1 contenders match against one of the top 5 guys. Maybe give him Ben Henderson or something. I mean, they're both coming off wins, and it just makes sense, maybe. Okay, so then also in the lightweight division we had Piotr Hallman versus Eve Edwards. I thought Eve Edwards was going to win this fight due to his experience. He's had dozens of fights in his professional MMA career. A UFC veteran up to wazoo. And yeah, he got submitted rear naked choke. That was round 3. That was about halfway into round 3. And Piotr Hallman, he has great grappling skills, fairly good wrestling. A lot of the Polish fighters tend to be good grapplers, I notice, and he's definitely Polish, especially with that name. I can't deny that. Yeah, so Piotr Hallman, good job in winning your fight. Then to kick off the main card, we had Brian Caraway versus Eric Perez. I kind of figured Brian Caraway, having a strong wrestling background, would land some good takedowns on Eric Perez. Eric Perez has decent ground game. He's working on it. He's getting better. He's a young guy. Of course, he's known for his striking and his boxing and his knockout power. But yeah, Brian Caraway got submission. That was rear naked choke round 2, minute and 52 seconds. Yeah, the second round, and yeah, that was a great fight. That was probably one of my favorite fights on the whole main card. I'm a big Brian Caraway fan. The thing about Brian Caraway that really makes me want to root for him is I kind of feel bad for him because, his girlfriend, Miesha Tate, tends to upstage him, but not like deliberately. and the media labels him as Mr. Tate. And I think they're both great fighters. They're both deserve to be top 10 ranked in their respectable weight classes, and they're both their own people. And you know, Brian Caraway's one person and Misha Tate's another, and yeah, they're a couple. But to call Brian Caraway Mr. Tate, you know, is kind of like in a disrespectful way. You know, I mean, you know, I'm happy for both of them doing well, and I think they're their own people, you know, and they both worked hard to get where they are now. Yeah, so that, oh yeah, and congrats to Patrick Cummins, who had a great win against Roger Navarez. TKO punches round 2. He uses wrestling and really got some good ground and pound and finished the fight. Got his first UFC win, so good job there. And also, kind of pre-fight for UFC 174, I gotta say, hopefully, my buddy Rory McDonald here gets the win against Tyron Woodley in the co-main event. I think he could win. I think his wrestling is good enough to deal with Tyron's wrestling in MMA. And if this were a pure collegiate wrestling match, maybe Tyron would win. But I think Rory has good enough takedown defense and can pick his shots and maybe land a good decision. And then in the main event, I'm picking Ali to win and get an upset over Demetrius Johnson for the flyweight title in the main event. I think Ali's wrestling is good, and I think if he can finish him in the first 3 rounds, then, well, you know, obviously he has it. If it goes past the 3rd round, it's all Demetrius Johnson because his cardio will hold up and his speed. So I think in rounds 4 and 5, it's Demetrius Johnson's game. And in the first 3 rounds, it's Ali with his power, punches, and his great takedown defense. And he has a strong Sambo wrestling background. So, yeah. And hold up. Yeah, I will also pick Rafael Cavalcante over Ryan Bader, and Andrei Arlovski over Brendan Schaub, and Ovince St. Preux over Ryan Jimmo, because I just feel like Ovince St. Preux is on a tear and he's looking good. Yeah, he's definitely a sleeper in the light heavyweight division. And the heavyweight match with Andrei Arlovski, former UFC heavyweight champion, against Brendan Schaub, I think is a great matchup. It's kind of old school versus somewhat old school, but not too old school, versus the newer guy, I guess you could say. But I mean, they're both veterans in the UFC. Yeah, and I think Rafael Cavalcante can, if he can deal with King Mo back in Strikeforce, he can deal with Ryan Bader, because I think King Mo and Ryan Bader are kind of similar, where there's strong wrestling base. They're both kind of big, stocky, light heavyweights. They're not super quick, and they throw hard punches. And I think Rafael's style can deal with that pretty well, and he can land a good shot and knock out Ryan Bader. So yeah, that sums up my post-fight show and gives you pretty much, yeah, my pre-fight show for UFC 174. And yeah, until then, see ya.